Night falls on a black volcanic shore. A bunker exhales smoke and the hollow sound of men. In one hand, a soldier writes a confession that would mean death by his own command. In the other, he grips the only thing his empire taught him to trust: a rifle. Outside, the men he was told were soft, ill-trained, cowardly. Keep walking into machine gun fire. And they keep walking. This is not luck, not bravado alone. It's a transformation, doctrine industry training, that turned ordinary men into an unstoppable tide. You can read it in the diaries left in ruined bunkers and interrogation rooms, and in the cold math no single act of heroism could reverse. Okay, what happened? When the Pacific erupted, the Imperial Army leaned on Bushido, the code of the warrior. Doctrine prized sacrifice, shock, night attacks, the morale collapse of the enemy. After years of conquest in Asia, many officers believed victory flowed from spirit. But by 1942, on a jungle-choked island called Guadalcanal, those assumptions met something new. The Marines who landed there weren't soft civilians. They were relentless, coordinated, radio-tied to artillery and ships, fed by factories that never slept. They had a playbook: combined arms fire and maneuver NCOs who could think under fire logistics that didn't flinch at losses. Here's the reveal. The tide wasn't just courage, it was systems. Higgins boats that kissed the beach and reversed. Naval guns walked shells ahead of advancing squads. Engineers carved airstrips out of jungle. Pilots flew cover because fuel, parts, and pilots kept arriving. When units broke, replacements slotted in. The arithmetic stayed steady. More landing craft, more radios, more training cycles, more food, more medicine. Japanese diaries from these beaches speak in stunned tones. They keep coming. Interrogations recorded shock at Marines who advanced by the book, at night defenses that didn't panic, at a willingness to accept losses in service of a larger plan. Spirit met structure, and structure won. By the time the bunker goes quiet, the lesson is loud. In war, belief can ignite the charge, but doctrine aims it. Training steadies it. Industry sustains it. And that's how an empire meets a tide it can't stop. Guadalcanal, August 1942. The first test. Japanese diaries recorded disbelief. Americans did not flee when surrounded. They fought at night. They attacked with coordinated, sustained violence. Japanese reports called them different, unpredictable. Tarawa, November 1943, offered a cruel arithmetic of that difference. A small atoll, a short battle, horrific losses. Yet the island fell in days, not weeks. The defenders could not believe the waves of men that replaced those who died. The Marines had discovered a new pattern, the combination of training that accepted casualties and logistics that replaced them. What built such men? Boot camp, repetition until the individual felt part of something larger. Drill instructors who broke recruits down, then rebuilt them as a unit. Lessons given not only in weaponry, but in identity. You are not alone. You are the brother of every Marine who ever lived. This psychological molding, combined with decentralized decision-making, junior leaders empowered to act, created a force that moved and adapted faster than traditional, centralized command structures could react. The Marines were not simply brave. They were methodical and doctrinally unique. Courage alone could not win islands. Firepower shattered bunkers. Artillery, naval gunfire, aerial bombardment, then flame and steel to finish what shells began. Marines arrived backed by a nation's industrial machine. Tanks, ammunition, medical care, and the capacity to replace losses. Captured Japanese officers often noted the same thing: technology and logistics plus a warrior ethos. In interview notes and letters, they did not call the Marines barbarians. They called them an unstoppable synthesis. Japan prized the night. Marines learned to dominate it. Raider tactics, small, elite units trained to infiltrate, ambush, and vanish, became standard practice. These night strikes terrorized defenders who had believed darkness their ally. The difference was speed and initiative. Where Japanese doctrine expected caution after a landing, Marines probed relentlessly. The night no longer belonged to the defender. February 19, 1945, Iwo Jima. The island's black sand and caves pumped a constant stream of horror into both sides. In a concrete bunker, Private First Class Tadashi Yamamoto wrote his last truthful lines. "The Marines are not human. They do not die like other men. This is not poetry. It is terror documented. 70,000 Marines landed. 26,000 became casualties in 36 days. For defenders, every casualty cost was permanent. No replacements, no resupply, only dwindling ammunition and the tunnel's breath. But the Marines' math was different. Each casualty had a place in a larger calculus. A regiment could bleed and be replaced. The island would still fall. Japanese training prized honorable death. Marines reframed sacrifice as a tactical tool. The similarity, devotion to comrades, was uncanny. The difference, industrial backing and doctrine that demanded offensive persistence, made the contrast fatal. We meet voices in captured interrogations, officers who once believed propaganda now confessing to broken faith. We see not caricatures, but human beings stripped of certainty. Every island taken mattered beyond its beaches. Each bloody victory knotted a web of logistics, airfields, and staging grounds that allowed Allied forces to close in on Japan. The math of production, replacement, and sustained assault meant that even the most heroic resistance could only delay an inevitable outcome. Kuribayashi's hope was to make the price of invasion unbearably high, to force negotiation rather than occupation. But by August 1945, new weapons had ended that possibility. The legacy, however, remained. Marines had proven that modern warfare demands both spirit and production. The diaries left in bunkers, the transcripts of prisoners, the photographs of ruined islands, they do more than list casualties. They teach us how modern history was made, not by myth, but by the marriage of doctrine and machine, of training and supply. The Marines were not miracles. They were the consequence of design, institutions that prepared them to pay the price, and a nation that could pay it again. If their story shocks you, let it teach you this. Strategy is human. Numbers shape fate, but people decide how to use them.